Welcome, dear listener. Welcome to the sleepy shore. Settle down, settle softly. Let this be your quiet harbor. I'm here with a warm voice, old enough to be steady, gentle enough to guide you home. In the background, the ocean breathes. A hush, a sigh. Waves come and go like thoughts you no longer need. Shoreline rain patters far away like a lullaby you once knew. Tonight's tale is written in a sleepy style. Short lines, slow rhythm, the kind that helps the body loosen and lets the mind unlace. Nothing urgent will happen, nothing sharp. Only kindness, only the small good moments of a quiet world. Pull the blankets up, rest your hands, feel your breathing grow long and easy. You are safe here, you are welcome here, and the story will carry you to rest. The Willow Ferry of Meadowmere. Evening drifted over Meadowmere like a shawl, software folded, worn at the edges by 100 gentle nights. The village lay where river met meadow, where the grass rose like green whispering waves, where willow branches trailed the water and combed its surface smooth. A small ferry worked there, a plank, a rope, a patient current, old timber, old knots, old trust. The ferryman's name was Alder. He moved like dusk, quiet, measured, a man who knew how to keep silence without making it heavy. He lived in a low, whitewashed cottage at the river bend, blue cups on the shelf, a kettle with a harmless dent, a cat called Button that preferred to sleep on warm maps. A bell hung by the landing. It never rang loudly. It never needed to. A soft pull was enough. Alder always heard. On the first mild evening of late spring, a traveller came to Meadowmere. She carried a canvas satchel, the colour of rain. Her name was Mara. She had the air of someone who walked far without ever hurrying, who noticed the tiny shine on every pebble, who kept a notebook for clouds. She reached the landing while the sky was the pale blue of porcelain cooled in air. She saw the ferry. She saw the rope stretched across the river like a slow sentence. She read it. She understood. Alder lifted a hand. She lifted a hand back. Words could wait. They stepped onto the plank. The wood accepted them the way old wood does, with a small creak of greeting, with a promise to hold. Alder drew the ferry along the rope. The river murmured to the shallows. A willow combed the surface. One leaf kissed the prow. A small ceremony, an old blessing. First time across, Alder asked at last. His voice was a soft coat. You could wear it and never feel the seams. Mara nodded. I heard there's an inn on the far side, she said. A little one, with a reading room and a fire that never brags. Alder smiled. Rook and lantern, he said. Best cinnamon tea for 30 miles. Chairs that agree with your spine. windows that know how to frame rain. Mara closed her eyes. Let the words settle like feathers. Just right, she said. They arrived without haste. That was Alder's way, to bring you where you were going, but to keep a slowness with you, as if it were a coin you could spend later. He tied the ferry. He offered a hand. He did not insist. She took it lightly, as one takes a single berry from a bowl. The inn waited up the lane, hung with time, painted the color of oat milk, smoke in the chimney that smelled faintly of apples, lanterns already lit. Evening did that to Meadowmere. It lit things kindly and early. Before she went, Mara looked back at the river, the ferry, the ferryman, the willow combing the light. "Do you cross after dark?" she asked. Alder nodded. "Moon's a fair lantern man," he said, "and the river knows the way by heart." Mara smiled. Her shoulders loosened. Inside her satchel, paper made a small sigh. It sounded like sleep beginning. She walked up the lane, slow steps, the kind you take when you want the road to last. The inn door opened before she reached it. It always seemed to know. It always seemed to open itself into warmth, the way night opens into stars. The innkeeper was Rowan, whose hair had turned the silver of sea foam. Rowan moved with the competent softness of a cat in a library. Nothing fell, nothing banged, everything arrived. "Welcome," Rowan said, like a warm cup held with both hands. "You look like you could use the chair by the window. It keeps the meadows in the corners of your eyes." Mara laughed quietly. She liked people who understood that chairs had opinions. The reading room sighed with lamplight. Books with loosened spines breathed out lavender and linen and rain. A woven rug kept the floor from feeling like a floor. 2 small dogs slept beneath the chess table, dreaming of very slow, poor steps. Rowan brought tea in a stout, friendly pot, cinnamon, orange peel, honey so soft it didn't try to sparkle. Mara wrapped her fingers around the cup. Warmth walked up her arms. Warmth settled at the base of her throat. Warmth set its luggage down and meant to stay. "Tell me your rhythm," Rowan said. "Some guests are morning sun. Some are candle wick. We like to match our kindness to the clock you keep." "I'm twilight," Mara said. "Twilight moving toward night." "Perfect," said Rowan. "Then you'll like the path at the back of the inn. It goes nowhere in the best possible way. There's a little wooden bridge that was built to be crossed slowly, a bench halfway where the river speaks in its quiet voice." Mara listened to the directions as if they were music, as if someone played them on the ribs of a boat, on the bones of a feather, on the bell of a lily. She finished her tea. She sat a while with nothing to think about. It's not easy doing nothing, but Meadowmere made it seem like the most natural work in the world. When the light thinned, she went out to the path. The air carried coolness and clover. Moths stitched the shadows together with small loops of silk. The grass released the day and curled into itself. The bridge looked over its shoulder, shy and pleased. It let her cross. It remembered every step anyone ever took. It held them all. It kept them safe. Halfway across, she sat on the bench. The river was a soft ribbon. It wore moonlight like a pale scarf. It tied no hard knots. Mara, the night seemed to say. Night, Mara answered without words. She thought of Alder ferrying under stars. She thought of Rowan tending fire and tea. She thought of the little dogs who had probably decided to sleep on the rug purely out of courtesy to the rug. The bench breathed. The water answered. Somewhere a late spoon tapped a cup. Somewhere a cricket tuned its small violin and decided the night was in perfect key. When she went back inside, the dogs opened one eye each and decided she was a friend. The clock nodded, as clocks will, when they recognize a person who knows how to keep time softly. Rowan set a small plate by her elbow, a slice of oatcake, not sweet, just tender, as if someone had written the word gentle in flour and left it there to bake. Tomorrow, Rowan said, if your feet want water under them, find Alder. He'll show you the reed beds where the river keeps its secret coolness. And if your hands want work, the baker at the lane's end always lets guests fold the dough. The dough likes new palms. It learns new patience. Mara smiled. Tomorrow? She said, as if that word had never hurried a day in its life. She slept in a room at the top of the stairs, a low beam, a blue quilt. The window cracked open to let the sky exhale. The bed took her in the way an old friend takes your hand. It held, it rested. It did not ask for anything in return. Morning in Meadowmere did not ring alarms. It loosened them. It unhooked them gently, one by one. Mara woke to the soft sound of river over pebbles, to bread cooling on racks, to a broom choosing kindness over hurry. She washed in a porcelain basin that remembered summer rain. She dressed in clothes that smelled faintly of travel and salt. She tied her laces with a bow that promised not to come undone unless asked politely. Downstairs, Rowan had already greeted the sun. A kettle hummed, not bragging, not shy. Scones lined up like small boats in a buttery harbour. 2 choices, Rowan said, placing a small chalkboard on the counter. Apricot and rosemary, or pear and cardamom. Best answer is both. Mara laughed. It came out like steam leaving a pot, pleased to find the air. Both, she said. She took them to the window chair. She ate slowly, without regret. Crumbs found the plate's white shore and rested there, peaceful as stones. Alder appeared at the door with a coil of rope and a jar of blackberry jam someone had entrusted to him. He left it by the ledger. He stood for a moment as if the morning needed his quiet in order to feel complete. "Reed beds?" Rowan asked. Alder tipped his head. "If your guest is willing," he said. Mara was. She put on her satchel. She followed Alder down to the ferry. Button the cat oversaw the departure with the kind of seriousness only cats can wear without looking foolish. They crossed. The river wore sunlight now, stitched in thin gold. Ducks wrote commas across its surface and read them aloud to one another. Alder stepped ashore and led her along a path of trodden silverweed and shy violets. The reed beds stood like green choirs. They swayed. They hummed the round song that water plants hum when they are happy to be precisely where they are. Alder cupped a handful of water and drank. He did not rush. He didn't take more than the morning was ready to offer. "Sit here," he said, patting a tuft of soft grass. "Listen, and if any thought tries to run too fast, let a reed wrap it gently by the waist." Mara sat. She did the rare, brave thing, nothing. Her breath lengthened as if it had discovered a forgotten corridor and wanted to wander down it. Her back rested. Her jaw unlearned the idea of clenching. Her hands, so often useful, enjoyed being pure ornament for a time. A heron took 3 careful steps and considered the physics of stillness. It decided stillness was sufficient science for the day. "Do you ever tire of crossing?" Mara asked, because questions sometimes arrive like birds and want to perch for a moment. "Crossing is a kind of staying," Alder said, "if you do it in the right spirit. The river is a road for some. It is a room for me. Rooms can be very large." They stayed until the light softened, until the reed tops wore seed like pale fur, until the ghost of a breeze tried the door and came in politely as a guest. When they returned, Rowan was setting out bowls of stew that smelled like root and thyme and long patience. Bread steamed like a small field warmed by sun. The dogs did their duties, which were chiefly to receive ear scratches on behalf of the entire village. They ate. They spoke in the way friends do when speech is an option, not an obligation. No hurry, no edge, no heavy puzzles to solve. After, Mara took her notebook to the little round table near the heather plant. She did not write much. She didn't need to. Meadowmere wrote itself, and her page understood. There is a lane in Meadowmere that bends as if it had made a promise to a pear tree long ago. At its end stands a bakehouse with windows that blush in the morning and cool at noon. Its baker, named Lark, has flour on his sleeves, flour in his laugh, flour in the folds of his kind, crinkled eyes. "New hands," Lark said when Rowan brought Mara by. "Doe likes to learn a new pulse. It rises higher, hearing a stranger's story." Mara washed at the sink. The water ran warm, grateful to be useful. She dried her hands on a cloth that smelled faintly of soap and sunshine. The doe waited like a calm sea. Stretch, fold, turn, rest again, no rush, no fear. Lark showed the motion. He didn't count beats. He listened to the doe's breath. It grew content beneath their palms. It sighed, it resisted, then agreed, then became more itself. They shaped loaves that felt like round, polite stones. They dusted them lightly with rye and patience. They set them to rise in baskets lined with linen that seemed always freshly laundered by some benevolent wind. "Tea?" Lark asked. "Always," said Rowan. They drank from heavy mugs with chipped rims that had somehow become part of the cup's best features. Steam rose in ribbons. The kettle settled into its small after-song. "Here," Lark said, lifting a little jar. "Herb sugar, not too sweet, something like the aftertaste of a good story. Sprinkle a pinch. Listen how it makes heat taste kind." They smiled at the truth of it. Some things can be trusted on the tongue in ways speech will never manage. When the loaves were ready, they slid them into the mouth of the oven. The oven shone with an ancient red. It knew how to keep counsel. It kept secrets for a living. It turned raw to ready without boasting. Mara stepped outside while heat did its old steady work. She wandered down to the lane's bend. The pear tree kept its promise with a smooth curve of shadow across the road. A bench waited under the eaves of the bakehouse. It made her think of a grandmother's lap. Alder was passing, ferry rope over his shoulder like a gentle sash. He paused at the bench. Saturday nodded to the air as one does when the air is an old friend. "Paper boats tonight," he said. "Children will fold them by the landing. We'll set them afloat with small lanterns. They'll travel the reed's edge and teach the minnows how to read." Mara's face softened with the kind of smile that closes the day's last door without a sound. "I'll be there," she said. Evening came with clean hands and a blue shawl. The landing filled with quiet excitement. Paper rustled, little lights winked, parents spoke like padded footsteps. Children counted without trying to reach any particular number. Alder steadied the ferry so the little boats could be launched from its lip. Rowan lit wicks with the patience of a watchmaker. Lark passed a tin of sugared fennel seeds, good for bravery, and for the small ache that grows in the chest when a thing is beautiful enough to hurt a little. Mara knelt by the plank. She eased a lantern boat onto the water. It took the river's hand and began to glide. Other boats joined. They made a small constellation, a quiet galaxy moving through green worlds. The willow lowered its hair to bless each one. The minnows agreed to be amazed. The heron maintained standards of dignity, then allowed itself the luxury of wonder. No one applauded. No one needed to. The river clapped rocks together under the surface. The night did the rest. When all the boats had vanished round the bend, Alder ferried those who lived across. He did it in 3 trips, possibly 4, no one remembered. Counting had become unnecessary. Mara walked back to the inn with Rowan. Lark waved from the bakehouse door, still warm as a story's heart. "Sleep will be good," Rowan said. "Sleep is already here," Mara answered, and she was not wrong. Rain came softly the next day, not to cancel plans, to give them smaller, cozier rooms. Meadowmere is beautiful in rain. Edges blur, voices lower. The sky becomes a ceiling under which no one feels alone. Rowan set a pot of barley soup to thinking on the stove. Alder oiled the ferry rope and laid it in loops that looked like a poet's handwriting. Lark scored loaves with a blade that moved with the calm of a bell. Mara found the inn's little attic room above the reading room. Few guests discovered it, a place of pressed flowers, old postcards, a globe that still insisted the ocean was the oldest story. She opened a drawer. Inside lay a bundle of linen, a needle wrapped in thread, a sachet of lavender stitched with a wavering star. A note in Rowan's tidy hand said, "Some afternoons want mending. Choose a seam, set it right, no rush." Mara smiled. She threaded the needle. She took a worn pillowcase down to her knee. She made small, honest stitches. Sometimes the thread asked to knot. She let it. Some knots are good. They aren't traps. They're anchors. Rain tapped the roof like a polite grandfather telling an old joke very slowly. The window blurred and then cleared, then blurred again. It was a lesson in forgiving and forgetting, repeated without scolding. The dogs came up and lay by the door, utterly certain that their presence improved the moral weather. They were correct. Footsteps sounded on the stair. Alder. He stood in the doorway with a mug of something that yawned steam. "Roasted barley with milk," he said. "Sailor's comfort, ferryman's peace." Mara took the mug. The heat asked her to trust it, and she did. "Thank you," she said, and meant the full sentence. Alder looked at the mending in her lap. "Good work," he said. "Small stitches mend big wear." Mara nodded. "Small steps mend long roads," she answered, and Alder's eyes said yes. They watched the rain. They listened to its harmless persistence. They exchanged the kind of silence that takes two. When Alder had gone, Rowan climbed the stairs with a wicker basket. Inside lay pears poached until they spoke softly of sun, a dish of custard that trembled with shy pride. 2 spoons. "Sit with me," Rowan said. "Tell me the names of clouds you've kept." Mara told a few. Lenticulars like slow ships, noctilucent like memory behind the eye, a single mare's tail over a salt flat that felt like a promise kept from far away. Rowan told names of their own: farmer's blanket, skylark's nest, baker's apron, innkeeper's mercy. They ate slow. They did not chase the last spoonful. They let it come. The rain fell more finely then, as if it had learned to whisper, as if it too knew that some afternoons do not want to be told what to do. Nights began to lengthen by a gentle thumb width. Lanterns were lit a breath earlier. Windows welcomed their own reflections sooner. Mara felt rest gather in her like tide. She had not known how low her shore had been. Now water returned, quietly, gratefully, without fuss. She walked again to the bridge at evening. The bench greeted her as it would anyone who arrived with clean hands and no heavy questions. Alder came from the reeds, coiling rope with the unhurried precision of someone who liked to leave good shapes behind. He sat. They shared a pocket tin of sugared fennel seeds left over from the lantern boats. They let sweetness melt without biting. "Will you stay?" Alder asked, not as an invitation, not as a test, just to help the night find its next word. "I think I will for a little while," Mara said. "I'll sweep floors, fold dough, string time, bring tea to windows, set lanterns by the stairs, walk the ferry rope from one palm to the other until it remembers it is a road." Alder nodded. "Then Meadowmere will stay with you," he said. "It always does with the ones who understand its speed." They watched a fish make a single ring. They watched that ring meet another and another until it was all one water again. Back at the inn, Rowan prepared the small ritual that took place most nights. Cups arranged like moons, a dish of honey that had not forgotten clover, a plate of oat cakes, thin as patience, strong as kindness. "Tonight's tea," Rowan said when Mara came in, "will be meadow tea, a little chamomile, a little lemon balm, a thread of vanilla to remind the heart it is held." Guests sat in easy chairs. Some read the same page 3 times just for joy. Some watched rain finish its business on the glass. Some looked at nothing, which is a valid way of looking at everything. Alder came in last, as ferrymen will. He shook a single drop from the brim of his cap and apologized to the floor in case it noticed. The floor forgave him instantly and entirely. They drank, they breathed, they let the story of the day file itself neatly on the shelf where days go when they are done. Mara thought of the person she had been at the landing 2 evenings past. She wished that person rest. She saw that person set down a satchel that had seemed weightless then and was not. Now she felt the bed upstairs calling in its low, friendly voice. She felt sleep preparing a room with turned-down covers and an extra pillow in case she wanted to hold something close. "Good night," Rowan said to those who were ready for it. "Good night," Alder echoed like a shoreline echoing a wave. "Good night," the dogs added with confidence that everyone would understand their language. Mara climbed the stairs. She lay down. She softened. She listened to the river threading through the dark. She heard the willow comb it smooth. She felt the inn rest and the village rest and the world take one deep, kind breath. Outside, the ferry lay with its rope easy. The reed beds dreamed in green. The lanterns by the door burned like quiet vows. The air held her. Sleep came the way meadow wind comes, with patience, with a tender hand at the brow, with the promise that nothing needed to be done until morning had the gentlest of bells. And now, dear one, the story has become a room that holds you, a room that grows softer each time you breathe. Let the ocean hush in the distance. Let the shoreline rain be a blanket of sound. Waves rise, waves fall, your chest rises, your chest falls, the same rhythm, the same belonging. Your eyelids grow heavier, your forehead smooths, your jaw unclenches, your shoulders sink like stones finding the riverbed. Nothing is asked of you. You have done enough. You are enough. Feel the mattress cradle you. Feel the pillow cup your head. Let your breathing slow, slower, slower still. You are safe. You are warm. You are held. Drift now, downstream and onward, into dark that is not empty, into rest that knows your name. Good night from the sleepy shore. Good night and sleep well.